trafficking is a booming industry, and it's happening right here in our communities.
It's a multi-billion-dollar criminal enterprise, second only to drug trade in profitability.
Human trafficking. Dragon Rich kidnaps young girls in Southeast Asia and sells them all over the globe.
Popular media depicts it as a foreign crime, or limited to dark alleys and seedy parts of town.
But investigator Shannon Pillar with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office says it can and does happen anywhere, and more often than you can imagine.
A lot of people think this is an international crime and international crime only. Human trafficking does not require travel across borders. A human trafficking case can be in one location, it can be in one home. What folks really can't seem to wrap their head around is it happens here, it happens in Greenville County. Greenville County actually leads the state with cases that have been made in human trafficking.
He says Greenville, South Carolina sits between two of the largest human trafficking hubs in the country, Atlanta and Charlotte. As the city grows, so does the number of cases he works.
The bottom line is I'm here to tell you that we've not scratched the surface when it comes to human trafficking.
As demand grows, traffickers are on the hunt for new victims. The first thing they look for are vulnerabilities. Problems at home, confidence and trust issues, drug addiction, and money woes, to name a few.
The list could go on and on. Everyone has vulnerabilities, but these criminals are experts at exploiting them.
They pick up on those little things that they know how to manipulate. They're master manipulators, that's what they are.
The most common victims are at-risk kids in foster homes or juvenile justice systems.
Unfortunately, they're vulnerable. These traffickers know this about them, and that's exactly who they go after.
Others from happy homes also fall prey. They can be lured in from seemingly safe places by someone they know.
Family members, friends, pastors, even teachers and classmates.
There are instances where young girls have been talked into becoming the recruiters. Where are they going to recruit from? The schools.
The internet and social media have also become hotbeds for both recruiters and their customers.
Sex sells, and it's all over the internet. One of the national stats is 75% of sex trafficking occurs over the internet. I mean, there is not an app on those phones that I would say is safe. And there are huge tools for recruiting. Any social media these kids are on, even online gaming, when kids are on their headsets, it's all they're master manipulators, and they know how to work these.
That was an interview I conducted several years ago with Dale Kelsey, the director of a movie called Bond, a local human trafficking film. As you can see, it was an overview of the problem with human trafficking here in South Carolina, specifically in the upstate of South Carolina. Obviously, human trafficking is a worldwide problem, a national problem, and like I stated in the interview, what people do not realize is it happens here in our very own backyard. The upstate of South Carolina is a hotbed for human trafficking. As you'll see with our Community Thrives grant project, there was no shelters when I filmed that interview for the entire state of South Carolina at the time. We had one of two options as an investigator when we identified a victim. One was to take him to a domestic violence shelter, or two, we had to take him out of state. This often led to victims leaving within hours of us placing them somewhere. I can tell you that since my time of doing that interview and since my time as a full-time human trafficking investigator, nothing has changed. In fact, it's only gotten worse. As you can see here, in 2019 alone, there were 678 victims of human trafficking reported, up from 188 in 2018. There are still 68 human trafficking cases pending in South Carolina state courts as of December 15, 2019. As I stated, there was no human trafficking shelters or homes in the state of South Carolina when I conducted that interview, or for the majority of my time as an investigator. In 2016, a place called Jasmine Road opened their doors with the assistance of Thistle Farms, which is a nonprofit from Nashville, Tennessee, and a local church here, Christ Church Episcopal Triune Mercy Center, and Bon Secours and St. Francis Health System. This shelter offers many wonderful things for victims of human trafficking. It does give them access to health care, dental, medical, and even attorneys. The only issue right now with Jasmine Rose is that there's a certain members of this community that they cannot serve. They cannot serve women who are pregnant or women who have children living with them. They may not be able to offer services for women with criminal charges, depending on what those charges are. And they do not offer services for males. And right now, they cannot take in juvenile victims. This is an adult-only facility. What our Community Thrives program is proposing is basically a one-stop shop, or what we like to call a multidisciplinary approach for these services to all be under one roof. What we are proposing is, for an example, a full-time director, which would be about $50,000 a year, a human trafficking lawyer who could come in several times during the week and help these girls with any charges they may have for prostitution, for example, or anything else that they may have going on. A psychologist for obvious reasons of what these girls go through, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. A nurse just for their healthcare needs, sexual assault nurses, especially, or SANE nurses as they're called. Full-time employees, which would be about 4 of them, just to man the shelter, or additional manning of the shelter, which would be about $120,000 a year. And then probably most important is an entirely different wing, or even just a different building itself near the same grounds for juvenile victims. Obviously, the benefits of this are huge. It brings everything under one roof. You've got everybody there. These girls don't have to leave for any reason that may make them uncomfortable going to an actual doctor's office or to a psychologist's office. They can do their healing, get out when they want to and where they want to, but they know that all these services are provided under one roof. It allows for a healing environment and allows for a more trusting environment, and it's just all around a good thing. This is a model that multiple states are going to, where even law enforcement is under that same roof, to where if victims choose to, they can come talk to law enforcement about any maybe charges on their actual trafficker. The last part of my narration there was showing several different frames, if you will, of stats. Those were nationwide stats. I'm here to tell you, though, just like the video I started off with where I was interviewed after the movie, this is a real problem here in South Carolina. It's a real problem in the country, and it's a real problem in the world. We see all forms. We see the international trafficking. We see the girls being brought over from Korea and used in massage parlors. We see the adult women who, just down on their luck, maybe have a drug addiction, who get wrapped up and essentially just have a pimp, and it's a pimp-controlled prostitution, who they withhold their money and abuse them. We see women traffickers. This is a major, major problem. We see very young girls. National statistics are anywhere between 16 and 17 is the average age. I've seen that as low as 13 is the average age of victims who get involved in human trafficking. As I stated, there's many, many different ways they're recruited. They're often in the sex industry, stripping already, pornography, obviously. There's a lot of recruiting going on at schools. The internet is huge. Shelters like Jasmine Rose are few and far between. They are extremely needed. And the biggest, I think, right now, underserved population is those juvenile victims. Our Community Thrives program not only hopefully helps those juvenile victims, but also these adult victims. These women have gone through a very traumatic time in their lives. These are times where a lot of times they just want to be by themselves. They want to essentially shelter in place, and bringing these services to them is the best way to help in the long run. A lot of people like to talk. A lot of people like to stand up. What I used to say when I was being interviewed was a lot of talking heads around the state like to talk about the issues of human trafficking, but usually very little is done about it. I started the Upstate Human Trafficking Task Force, and one of the biggest issues that we talked about was the funding for human trafficking. Just like anything else in society, mental health, human trafficking, poverty, a lot of times we don't take these issues serious, and we don't put enough money towards actually fighting or combating or helping people with these issues. I hope you'll consider our grant or our proposal here. Thank you.
The only way to truly make a difference is join the fight.
It's time to stop talking and take action.